Gunga Din was a 1939 action-adventure movie. It basically tells the story of three good buddies who are serving together in colonial British India, along with their friend Gunga Din, an Indian water-bearer. It's set in India, it's in the late 1800s, and the plot revolves around these three guys being stationed at a British outpost that is being attacked by members of a mysterious and murderous Thugee cult. So the core of this film is really the friendship of these three guys. We have Cary Grant playing Sergeant Archibald Cutter, Victor McLaglen as Sergeant MacChesney, and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. as Sergeant Thomas Ballantine. The story is that these three guys, they're good buddies, they fight together, both their enemies and sometimes with each other. They play jokes and tricks and laugh together, and it's goofy fun, and they make a likable trio, but they all fight together and stick together to the end. So early in the film, there's this big fight with Cary Grant's character and several other officers. He's brought under correction, but since these are desperate times and they need everyone that they can get, they send the three guys off on a mission to investigate this outpost that was mysteriously wiped out. So they gather some troops together and they go to investigate what appears to be a largely deserted village. I actually love this scene because as they go investigating, one by one, members of their party secretly get picked off. It's creepy and really kind of holds your interest. It's like, what in the world is going on here? So apparently, it's members of this Thugee cult who are sneaking around and strangling the various soldiers. So Cutter, MacChesney, and Ballantine get into this big fight with several of the Thugees and overpower them. The cultists, however, aren't going to give up easy, and they appeal to Kali and tell them that their graves are already dug. And soon Thugee reinforcements show up and there's this big gunfight. They manage to escape, the three heroes, after this long battle that involved guns and sword fighting and even throwing dynamite around. And the three of them end up making their escape with this dramatic dive off the edge of a building into water far below. It's great action stuff. So they return to their base camp and they report in, and the film kind of slows down a little bit. Cutter and MacChesney get their orders, but Ballantine won't be with them, because alas, he's getting married to the lovely Emmy, who's played by Joan Fontaine. At this point, Cutter helps train the character Gunga Din, this cheerful Indian character who was played by Sam Jaffe, a very non-Indian actor. Strangely enough, I remember him not just as Gunga Din, but also as the mousy doctor character from the movie The Asphalt Jungle, one of my all-time favorite crime noir films. He was the weird doctor guy in that film who, while they were on the run, just gets held up at this cafe watching teens dance. It was kind of weird. Anyhow, Cutter teaches Gunga Din how to be an officer, how to salute and do things like that. And meanwhile, MacChesney tends to a sick elephant, and realizing that the elephant's medicine is actually highly diuretic, he decides to use it later for a prank. In fact, sure enough, later that night there's a party going on, and Cutter and MacChesney head to the party, and they decide to spike the punch bowl there with this elephant medicine. However, they see some commanding officers come in and show an interest in having some punch, much to MacChesney's alarm, so he hastily has to stop them from drinking the punch. However, Cutter meets up with the new character Sergeant Higginbotham, played by actor Robert Coote, and leads him over to drink some of the punch, and, well, you can figure out hilarity ensues. So these guys get their orders that they have to go back to serve again. They get Ballantine to return. At the time, he's out at a shop looking for fabric patterns with his fiancée, but he's brought back in for service for just a few more days at least. So Cutter still thinks there's this hidden temple somewhere, according to Gunga Din, one filled with gold and treasure, and Cutter just kind of goes overboard dreaming about the treasure. His friends don't want to hear about it, and after Cutter takes a swing at MacChesney, well, he slugs him in the face, knocks him out, and he gets thrown into a jail cell. But later that night, Cutter convinces Gunga Din to help him escape, with the help of the power of an elephant, and after the elephant managed to basically rip off the wall of his jail cell, he and Gunga Din ride off on the back of this elephant to find their treasure. And indeed, they do find their way to this hidden temple, and Cutter's, of course, thrilled. And once inside, they have to kind of scope it out, and they find all these Thugee cultists who have gathered to hear their leader speak. Cult leader, his name was Guru. He's played by Eduardo Nelly, one of those excellent old creepy movie actors. I'm positive I've seen him in something else, but I can't think of it as of this review. So Cutter in secret tells Gunga Din to go run and get help while he makes a stand there. Not sure why they both didn't run for it, but whatever. In any case, Cutter's captured, and when Gunga Din eventually catches up with MacChesney, he's angry, of course, but he does decide to go after Cutter. He convinces Ballantine to go too, but his soon-to-be wife isn't too happy about him leaving and makes a big hubbub about it. So Ballantine leaves Joan Fontaine to go out into the dusty desert with his buddies. He leaves behind Joan Fontaine. Anyhow, MacChesney and Ballantine arrive at the temple, and they are captured. And in the prison, they find Cutter, who's tied up. He's been whipped, and soon they're being threatened by Guru to be tossed into a snake pit. Very Indiana Jones here. More on that later. The three guys and Gunga Din, they manage to make their escape, and they also are able to grab Guru as a hostage. And since he's the leader, it kind of serves as a shield for them. And they hide out on the roof of the temple, while on the ground, the Thugees continue to shoot at them from time to time. Now, eventually troops arrive to rescue them, but Guru, in true Emperor Palpatine style, explains how his best troops are waiting to attack. Yeah, Lucas really must have been a fan of this film. Right before the attack, Guru makes his escape, the big battle begins, and well, you need to see how our scrappy trio of heroes make it out. Will Cutter get his gold? Will Ballantine get back with Joan Fontaine? Will Gunga Din serve as a hero? Well, you'll have to watch this film for yourself and see what happens. Some closing thoughts. This was a lot of fun. It's an entertaining action-adventure war movie, but it's also a buddy film too. And there's really a fun chemistry between the characters, and they do really strike you as this goofy band of friends, loyal to one another to the very end. I like the locations and the sets. Although it wasn't filmed in India at all, my understanding it was in California's Sierra Nevada range, it still looks good and convincing as a very dusty, barren landscape. Alfred Newman provides a really bright and entertaining musical score as well. And look, I have immeasurable respect for George Lucas. Well, excluding his decision to sell the franchise to Disney, but I can't help but watch this film and think, wow, George Lucas must have really been a fan of this film, because he borrowed generously for the 1984 classic Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Some of the elements, the Thugee cult, the servants of Kali that sneak up and strangle people from behind. In fact, at one point, one of the heroes gets strangled and does this flip of the bad guy, much like Indiana Jones did. They're riding on elephants. There's a rickety old rope bridge that at one point gets chopped and broken. They find a hidden temple filled with cultists with a giant statue of Kali. Even the cult leader in this film has a Mola Ram vibe to him. Crazy stuff. You can't watch one without thinking of the other. But I can't complain. I enjoy both films. Anyhow, that's my review of Gunga Din, a fun film with Cary Grant, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. It's from 1939. Lots of action and adventure and very much George Lucas inspiring content. And it's worth checking out.